Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast. I'm your host, DylanLasagna, and this is episode number 224 of this icy yet spicy podcast for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. In this episode, we're here for another edition of the week that was and will be around the 2024 NFL season. This week being week 6, which has already finished up, and the week that will be coming up real soon, week number 7. So sit back, relax, let's talk some football that is happening right now. But before we do that, actually, a little bit of housekeeping before we get the ball rolling in this episode. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Make sure you follow Very Cold Lasagna on social media, Twitter, Instagram, wherever the show is available, where I'm available at Very Cold Lasagna. Make sure you listen to Very Cold Lasagna on all audio platforms, whether it be at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, rate and review the show. And make sure, for all my video watchers out there on YouTube, make sure you smash the like button, smash the subscribe button if you're not already, turn on that notification bell, leave a comment down below with your own takes on each and every episode topic. This one being another week that was and will be around the NFL. And make sure you share this with your friends, your neighbors, strangers, colleagues, whether it's at work or at school. Share the good, the bad, the ugly around Very Cold Lasagna and all my filthy casual takes. So that being said, let's talk about another week that was around the NFL. Some blowouts that happened this past week, but a couple of key takeaways from that were hiding in these blowouts as well. So that being said, let's get into this past week that was around the NFL. A couple more teams were on their bye-bye. They were on their vacation this week. Those teams included the Kansas City Chiefs, your reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champions, the LA Rams, the Miami Dolphins, and the Minnesota Vikings. They will be returning this week when we talk about them in the week that will be in that segment. But for now, let's talk about the game slate that was week number 6. And it all started off with the Thursday Night Football game that you can only watch on Amazon Prime Video for that Jeff Bezos money, pal. And my team was subject to the Jeff Bezos treatment as my San Francisco 49ers went up to the Pacific Northwest to try and save their season. And, well, they did actually save their season as Brock Purdy threw 2 red zone touchdowns. Yes, you heard that right. 2 red zone touchdowns to George Kittle. And Isaac Guerendo got a big late clutch run that set up a Kyle Juszczyk touchdown to put the Seahawks away 36-24. So, yeah, like I said, the 49ers saved their season with a kind of big performance in this game against the Seahawks, who are officially frauds now. The Seahawks, starting out 3-0, their offense looked pretty good for the most part in that 3-0 stretch, but now they've kind of fallen flat on their face. In this game, they kind of were too, but yeah, not looking good for the Seahawks right now, especially defensively. Like, what happened, bro? Meanwhile, for the 49ers, going back to the 49ers, they still have a lot of things to clean up, as I talked about in my recap of that game, especially the special teams. Like, what are we doing there? Defensively, there's still some things to clean up, like in the secondary. There's still some coverage gaps there. Offensively, still a lot of issues in the red zone, like trying to score. But, I mean, hey, finally got 2 red zone touchdowns. Like I said, we finally scored in the red zone. Actually, 3 times. He scored 3 times in the red zone in that game. So, progress. Let's have some consistency, though, going into the next game. Going to the Sunday slate of game, starting with the early morning portion, as Caleb Williams might scored some touchdowns. He scored 4 touchdowns to be exact, to lift the Bears to an easy victory over the all-elite Jaguars, who had a wrestle nightmare in London, made 35-16. They just went from bad to worse for the all-elite Jaguars. First, a really bad wrestle dream in Seattle, and then now you had this kind of game against Chicago in London. Could anything get more worse for Jacksonville than this past weekend? But anyway, next week suddenly becomes a must-win game for the Jaguars. If they somehow don't beat the New England Patriots in London, you might as well leave Doug Peterson over there overseas as you come back here to the States. Like, what is going on with this team? Like, seriously. Trevor Lawrence has significantly regressed. The rest of the offense is dropping touchdowns left and right. So, yeah, you got to have this game next week against the Patriots. And if you somehow don't, then, well, just leave Doug Peterson there. Meanwhile, for the Bears, this offense around Caleb is really starting to round into form. Williams playing really well for the second straight week. And now you have Keenan Allen emerging as this red zone target that really helped put the Bears put this game away, which, well, it pretty much already was by the fourth quarter. So when you look for the Bears after the bye week, they don't really face another real threat other than Washington coming out of the bye. So after Washington, they don't really face anyone else that's a real threat until the Packers a couple weeks after Washington. But, these next couple games still kind of important for the Bears as they're trying to string something together with the rest of the offense rounding into form. Caleb Williams having some nice performances, and hope that keeps going for them. And then one of these the sleeper games I was talking about in the week that will be from last week, the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Washington Commanders in a pretty fun matchup between two young quarterbacks. But it was Baltimore that came away with the victory as Derrick Henry's 2 touchdowns were key to this one, and a go-ahead Justin Tucker field goal in the fourth quarter allowed the Ravens to hold off Washington in this back-and-forth battle, 30-23. Washington was pretty much in it for the entirety of this game, but they just fell a little bit short. But Jane Daniels still played relatively well in this one against a playoff contender in Baltimore, kept things close. Again, they just ran out of chances when they could. So no shame in the Commanders losing this one. They just didn't have enough in the end. Still relatively young, kind of rebuilding-ish team, that being the Commanders. Meanwhile, for the Baltimore Ravens, they put up a relatively good game. Zay Flowers finally being that top receiver that the Ravens were looking for. Mark Andrews reemerging as well. So the key pieces on offense outside of course, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry coming together. So the Ravens have won 4 straight now looking to win 5 the next week. Down in Lambeau, Jordan Love threw for 4 touchdowns as the Packers defense put the clamps on Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. The Packers beat Arizona 34-13 in a relatively easy win for them in Lambeau, in that wet, rainy field. So these young Packers in this game, pretty much it was Jordan Love airing it out in this one. He spread the ball around, shared the love, no pun intended, whether it be to Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, who returned from an injury, Romeo Doubs, who sat out the last game because of a suspension, like a team suspension, and then his tight end, Tucker Kraft. So this team has depth. This team loves to share. Even though they don't have a top receiver, and honestly right now they don't really need to. They're kind of shredding that narrative at the moment. So they're really showing their depth, this Packers team. So there's a reason why they're still competing in the NFC North. On the other hand, for this Cardinals team, that repeat performance that they had against the 49ers, it clearly wasn't there against the Packers. Maybe it was the Niners just, falling asleep at the wheel. But the Packers certainly weren't going to fall asleep on the gas because they gashed Arizona from the start. And, well, as a result, Arizona fell behind 24-7 at halftime. And, well, the offense couldn't get them back into it unlike the previous week against the Niners. And even worse for Arizona was the injuries that they suffered to Justin Jones and BJ Ojulari. And they are already beat up. So, going forward, they're going to need someone to step up for the Cards if they want to have any sort of fighting chance, especially in considering they didn't want to get blown out on the defensive end. Meanwhile, in New England, you had a starting quarterback emerge by the name of Drake May. He was making his first start for the team, even though I was very hesitant because of the very bad supporting cast around him. But nonetheless, he did kind of okay in this game, but still wasn't enough in the end because the high-powered Texans offense lit up the Patriots with a 40 bomb for a runaway victory, 41-21. So for the Texans, they were relatively good in this game despite not having Nico Collins. But when you have Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, the returning Joe Mixon, who missed a couple games due to an ankle injury, you even got Dameon Pierce, who I thought was going to be one of the standout pieces like last season, but he wasn't. But nonetheless, they got him back involved. So all these pieces, all this depth was key for Houston's offense in this game, and well, will continue to be so. Meanwhile, for the Patriots, of course, this game was more focused on how Drake May was going to do in this one, and I thought, again, like I said, he did pretty all right. He was pretty solid in this one. He showed off his mobility. He made some pretty nice throws that Jacoby Brissett couldn't do. He even made his receivers at times look like God. Ugh. So he made the most of a bad situation, but of course, eventually, it's still a relatively bad supporting cast around him, especially the offensive line. So he only has so much that he can do. So I feel like that offensive line is going to really severely limit him. But it's better than what Jacoby Brissett could have offered them. So it's something for Drake May and the Patriots. Meanwhile, in the Big Easy, which has turned into the Big Hard yet again, but it didn't feel that way for the first half because it was a sudden back and forth for the Tampa Bay Bucks and the New Orleans Saints. But then the second half turned into a blowout in favor of the Bucks as they dismantled the Saints with a 50 bomb, beating them 51-27, bouncing back from that heartbreaker against the Falcons last week. And the Bucks, they seem like they're finally finding some balance in that standout second half. They finally seem to have found a running game in sorts with Bucky Irving. So that allowed Baker Mayfield and the Bucks to slice up that Saints defense, that has been okay for them, and then put them away early in the fourth quarter. So the Bucks seem to have finally found some semblance of balance and put a little bit less pressure on Baker Mayfield. So we'll see what happens next week for them. Meanwhile, for the Saints, as I mentioned, Derek Carr not available for them with the oblique injury, so he's out for the next couple of games. So Spencer Rattler, the rookie, the 5th round rookie, had to make his debut, but he was okay. He had a mixed debut. He actually played relatively well in the first half, but he disappeared in the second half because the Bucs defense clamped down on him. They figured him out. So, I forgot to mention, he also lost two of his key receivers in Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave in some points of the game. So it didn't help that he lost two of his best receivers. So yeah, they got a very short turnaround for that being the Saints. But at least for Spencer Rattler, like these next couple of games with Derek Carr being out, it'll help gain his film, gain his resume up. So it is what it is. Then at the link, Jalen Hurts' 2 touchdowns to the men he got back in A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith helped the Eagles get past the Browns, aka the skid marks, 20-16. This game should have been less close than it should have been because the skid marks have been very bad this season, especially offensively, and the skid marks want to have at least some sort of chance to get another win, or even more than that. They gotta make some changes to this offense, and unfortunately, you can't make any changes to the quarterback because Deshaun Watson has a big fat contract, you got to make some changes, at least to whatever they're trying to instill, like schematically. Like, I don't know what Kevin Stefanski is trying to do, but it's not work. Whatever he's doing is not working. So I don't know if it's something with the offensive coordinator, it's whatever they're collabing on, but whatever they're doing, it's clearly not working for this offense. Meanwhile, for the Eagles, speaking of not working, they should have really put this, like I said, they should have put the skid marks away, like much earlier in this game. They should have won in a much more convincing manner, but they kept them in it. Like they got to another slow start. Hurts, top two receivers were back, but then the play calling, the scheming, it was such a mess for half of this game. They overrelied so much on the prayer ball. Like, why are we still relying so much on that? I mean, they at least managed to go for the mid range and the short passes like later on in the game, but it's like, damn, it felt messy for the Eagles. Like they should have went for a much more reliable game in this one. And then it doesn't help that Coach Nick Sirianni was acting like he won like some big prize in the end towards the end of the game. He was acting like a big baby. He was getting it into fans like Rhea Ripley was on social media, like seeing that certain post of people wishing injury on her, even though it's like one person out of the many people that were laughing at another unrelated thing. That's Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni and Rhea Ripley are like two of the same people. If you get what I mean. Anyway, it's like a crap culture. So anyway, yeah, they are seriously undisciplined. The Eagles may have won, but they really need to discipline themselves. So anyway, moving on to the next game. The Indianapolis Colts beat the Tennessee Titans 20-17. It was a tight contest, surprisingly. But in the end, Michael Pittman, he scored a fourth quarter touchdown from Joe Flacco, and that was enough to have the Colts hold off the Titans in this tough affair. So the Colts, they managed to get to 500, get even the record to 3-3. My big takeaway from them is, Josh Downs. Even though Michael Pittman's the somewhat reliable guy in the offense, Josh Downs is quietly emerging as the top receiver in this Colts offense. So, especially considering that, Pittman could miss time with a back injury. Downs' role could go nowhere but up. Meanwhile, something that's not going up is Will Levis. Like, you have Will Levis out here continuing to cause turnovers, although it was only one this week, which is progress. He's very erratic. He couldn't take advantage of the NFL's worst defense because of that. And then you have him out here, like, yes, he scored a touchdown, but then you have him out here being a meme machine, doing this. Like, what the fuck was this celebration, bro? Like, doing the Spider-Man. And then, yeah, it was just very unfortunate. But I thought the bye week would have fixed these issues, but unfortunately not. So you have to wonder again, like I kind of alluded to in last week's, a couple weeks ago. You have to wonder if Brian Callahan, the head coach, is going to have to eventually, pull the plug on Will Levis because it's not working for Levis and the Titans. Going to the late afternoon slate of games, the Chargers jumped out to a 20-0 halftime lead in the Mile High coming out of their bye week before they had to hold off a very late surge from the Denver Broncos, beating them 23-16. The Chargers came out of this game with a little bit of more balanced attack with big Jim Harbaugh, who actually had to leave this game for a little bit with some kind of illness or like, I'm not sure why. I forgot why he left this game, but it was kind of a little concerning. But big Jim Harbaugh let Justin Herbert throw a little bit more in this game. And that was key to opening up the offense and balancing out with the rushing attack. And then Herbert throwing a little bit more in this one. And that opened up the offense a little bit more. So that should be key going forward for them. Meanwhile, Sean Payne, in this offense, I feel like why are they not letting Bo Nix do more much earlier in the game? It's like they're always down in early in games because they don't let Bo Nix throw it more. It's like they get back in the game in the fourth quarter before they fall short or they win it. But it's like if they played like how they did in the fourth quarter, before the fourth quarter, they could have actually had a chance to win the game. Like, you can only do so much babying Bo Nix for 3 quarters, but at some point, it's like the other team at some point in one of these games is gonna whoop your ass, and then there's gonna be no coming back. It's like you can't baby Bo Nix for much longer. It's like you got to open up the play calling much earlier for him. So it's got to happen at some point. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Down in Las Vegas, the Steelers defense forced a litany of mistakes on Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders in a total beatdown of the silver and black, 32-13. It was so bad that a certain trade happened 2 days later, but we'll get into that when we talk about another particular team down in the Meadowlands. But as for this game, despite winning this one, there's still plenty of questions about the Steelers team and their legitimacy. Sure, they snapped their 2-game losing skid. Justin Fields actually played one of his better games. The defense forced a bunch of turnovers, but of course it came all at the expense of a really bad team. But nonetheless, you play whoever's in front of you, and they will eventually face another test. That test doesn't come this week though, but eventually they will face another test. But meanwhile, for the Raiders, man, they're really truly stuck in hell for the rest of the year. They elected to switch to Aiden O'Connell, and even though they got the big pep talk from that deadbeat dad, Rey Mysterio, who is in town, man, they really proved that they're deadbeats themselves. Rey Mysterio couldn't provide a spark for this offense outside the opening possession, and it just got worse the rest of the way. The offense fumbled the ball. They even fumbled at the goal line twice. And they had multiple 3-and-outs, and O'Connell threw an interception. It was just bad, man. It was just really bad. And then going back to that trade that happened a couple days later, yeah, it's gonna get real bad for Raider Nation the rest of the way. Down in Carolina, Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson sliced and diced up the Panthers defense, each notching 100 yards. They both got a pair of touchdowns as the Falcons ran away from the Panthers 38-20, claiming the NFC South with a 3-0 division lead. So, yeah, the Falcons already up 3-0 in the division, but that Falcons offense looking pretty good right now. Getting key contributions from Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney. But yeah, looking pretty good right now for them. And that's despite, not quite fully unlocking that offense and Kirk Cousins almost being at full strength. So yeah, once they get there, they could be a kind of a dangerous threat in that division and maybe even a little bit in NFC. Meanwhile, for Carolina, I mean, not really much to take away from them other than the fact that they might need to turn back to Bryce Young. I mean, Dalton hasn't played poorly, but he hasn't really done enough to generate the results that Coach Dave Canales wanted when he made the switch. So at this point, he may need to have to switch back to Bryce Young in order to see what he has to offer before Carolina gives up on Bryce Young completely. So it's like you might as well have to see what he's got left. Like, you can't ride the bench forever for the rest of the year. Meanwhile, down in the Big D, and that Big D stands for Big Demolition. because Jared Goff and the Lions demoralized the Cowboys in just about each and every way they could by scoring on nearly every possession as the Lions beat the Cowboys 47-9 in one of the Cowboys' worst losses in their history. Oof. Oof, oof, oof. So the Cowboys better think long and hard during their bye week. And I get it, injuries affected this team, but it's pretty much affected almost every team in the NFL this season. So even if the injuries were there, like the team that's currently there right now to help each other, it's not exactly lighting things up for Dallas. The trenches on both sides, they can't, offensive line specifically, it can't protect Dak Prescott. It's forcing him into some pretty bad throws. On the other side, the defensive line, it can't get to the quarterback. The rushing game is really struggling. Dak himself struggles in the red zone. He threw another red zone pick, and the offense falls behind due to various communication issues. So overall, when you look at this Cowboys team, they're certainly going all in into a mess. Meanwhile, for the Lions, they got another big blowout win. They continue to look pretty impressive, especially offensively. But man, if there was one really bad thing that happened to them in this game, it comes on the defense. The third quarter saw edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson take a very nasty leg injury. I recommend you don't you don't watch it, but if you do, be warned, it's very bad. It's a very nasty leg injury. He collided with his own teammate, not on purpose, obviously, but he collided with his own leg, his own teammate. His leg whipped, and it was bad. It's a fractured tibia, as they're officially ruling it. But yeah, he's out for the season, and he got immediate surgery on it. Forget the fact that it's going to be a big blow to the defensive line. I'm just more concerned about his health. So hopefully he'll heal up. He'll still be able to play. So, man, it's just rough. It's just really rough. So moving on to the Sunday Night Football game for this past week, and why was this even on the schedule when when they released it? Why did they even consider this? But New York market, right? Chase Brown's late big touchdown run late in the fourth quarter put the dagger in a very boring ass reminder to again stop putting the Giants in primetime games. The Cincinnati Bengals saved their season, beating the New York Giants 17-7. Does beating the Giants amount to anything these days? Does it amount to saving your season these days? But I guess. Meanwhile, so let's talk a little bit about what to take away from this game for both of these teams. The Bengals, the result, it didn't really do a whole lot for me when it comes to my concerns for this Bengals squad. They played a good Giants defense, but the Bengals' bad defense also were made to look like gods against the Giants' really bad offense. And the Giants' offense was already bad, even with Malik Neighbors on there. So it's just did it really matter? Did it really matter? So yeah, that defense kept them in it to win it. So if you think about it, it's this really didn't really change much about the Bengals, and when it comes to them winning this game, because the Giants just suck. Meanwhile, for the Giants, it's when you think about it, it's you had plenty of opportunities to try and steal this game, like you did against the Cowboys on a Thursday night, but it's just your offense was terrible. Your defense did all this to try and win you this game, but again, Danny Pennies was doing absolutely nothing. He couldn't connect with his receivers that's not named Malik Neighbors. Just couldn't do anything. So a good defensive performance from the Giants, absolutely wasted in prime time. So going to the gangrene side of New York, it was a game of attrition. So pretty much the opposite of what we saw Sunday night. The Monday night game saw this game of attrition, but also dirty laundry, like all around. But the Bills, the Western New York team, sealed it with a late field goal and an interception from Teron Johnson as the Bills beat the Jets 23-20. And the Bills looked pretty good out there, snapped their 2-game losing skid, and they may have found something with the running back depth. They didn't have James Cook in this one, but their backups stepped up pretty well. Ty Johnson and Ray Davis did pretty well, and that took some pressure off of Josh Allen. So maybe they can use that going forward. That'd be some bulletin board material for them. Meanwhile, for the Jets, they fired Robert Saleh, but did anything really much change for them other than the offense looking a little bit better this past week? Not really, because look at it. They remain a sloppy team that's prone to penalties. The offensive line can't protect its quarterback. They literally drop or turn over the damn ball. So the only redeeming side of this team is, well, the defense. The defense that can only do so much. Oh, wait, but there's one more thing. Oh, yeah. Davante Adams. Davante Adams, pal. He got traded. He got traded from the Raiders to the New York Jets. That's going to solve everything. It's going to solve the problems that the Jets have. Psych. Not really. Not like, sure. It'll give Aaron Rodgers his old running mate back. It'll give him his top man back, but is it really going to solve the protection around Aaron Rodgers? No, not really. Because you thought you had a top man in Garrett Wilson, but no, not really. So again, it goes back to the part of this team having a lot of issues, even if you change the head coach. So this Jets team not looking good right now, even if they got Davante Adams. So that was your week that was week number 6 in the NFL, this 2024 campaign. Before we move on to the week that will be, let's check out our stars of the week. My stars of the week this week at quarterback is from the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, going for 23 of 29, throwing for 226 yards, 4 touchdowns. Forget the pick that he threw. It was a really bad one, but still, he had a really nice game against the all-elite Jacksonville Jaguars, turning their wrestle dream into a wrestle nightmare in London, mate. Meanwhile, on the rushing side of things, the rushing duo for the Atlanta Falcons, Tyler Algier and B. John Robinson, notching 100 yards each. 2 touchdowns for B. John Robinson and 1 touchdown for Tyler Algier in that victory over Carolina. And then defensively, the Lions defense, just 9 points allowed, 5 total forced turnovers, and sacking Dak Prescott 4 times. So good stuff there for all those people involved, and those are my stars of the week. So now we move on to the week that will be, week number 7. Hopefully this week will be a little bit more interesting than this past week that was. A lot of blowouts in that one, but still some little sprinklets, some highlights that we took away from. But hopefully this week will be a little bit more interesting, and some fun ones in this one. So that being said, let's get into the week that will be, week number 7 in this 2024 campaign. So just 2 teams on their bye-bye, on their vacay this week. Those teams being the Chicago Bears, because they were in London. They chose to take their bye week this week. And then the other team being the Dallas Cowboys, fresh off their embarrassing loss to the Detroit Lions. So we'll be seeing those 2 teams next week. So we kick things off with the Thursday night football game, only for those Jeff Bezos coins, pal, as the Denver Broncos at 3-3 take on the free-falling 2-4 New Orleans Saints, as Sean Payton returns to his old place that he used to run in New Orleans to face his old team, the Saints, in a battle of rookie quarterbacks looking to get something going for their teams. Sean Payton, he seriously needs to take the baby wheels off of Bo Nix very early. Like, get it going right out of the gate. Get some good play calls in. Get aggressive with Bo Nix. Show the world what he's made of. Like, please. Like, this is the best opportunity to do so. Meanwhile, for the Saints, they got a number of injuries going on that team, especially on the offensive side. Chris Olave's dealing with an injury. So is Rashid Shaheed. So Spencer Rattler is going to be dealing with a little bit of a depleted passing attack. But, I mean, you got Alvin Kamara, though, so that's something. So going to the Sunday slate of games, starting with the early morning portion, we got the last London game of the year as the New England Patriots at 1-5 visit the all-elite Jacksonville Jaguars, the free-falling AEW Jaguars. Drake May and the Patriots looking for an upset win overseas, facing the AEW Jaguars, who face a must-win situation, hopefully for them, in their eyes, trying to get a win over a rebuilding team. If they somehow don't, well, like I said, in the week that was, leave Doug Peterson in London. Then in Atlanta, the Seattle Seahawks at 3-3 take on the 4-2 Atlanta Falcons. The Seahawks, they seriously have to find a way to win this game because they have lost 3 straight after starting out 3-0. They've lost to the Lions. They suffered an upset to the Giants. They lost to the 49ers. So they're kind of in a rut right now. But it's not going to come easy because the Atlanta Falcons are on fire right now offensively. And that's an offense that has yet to reach its full capacity potential. So I wouldn't be the Seahawks right now against a Falcons team that is about to reach up here at the moment. Meanwhile, for the Tennessee Titans, at 1-4, they head up to Western New York to take on the Buffalo Bills at 4-2. Will Levis, he cannot play the way he's been playing right now, but I don't know if there's going to be a fix for that against Josh Allen, the Bills, looking to follow up their really nice Monday night win over the Jets, snapping their 2-game skid. So, interesting to see how that goes, and hopefully they'll be able to keep up their more balanced approach. The Cincinnati Bengals at 2-4 look to have another chance to keep their season alive when they face the lifeless Skid Marks. The Skid Marks, they really need to find something offensively. Kevin Stefanski, fire your team up more. Get them motivated. Change the scheme up. Something. Especially do something with your quarterback, Deshaun Watson. In a sleeper matchup of the week, 2 young teams in the Houston Texans at 5-1, taking on the Green Bay Packers at 4-2. This should be an interesting matchup. I'm not sure if it's going to be broadcast around the globe, but it should be fun nonetheless. Jordan Love dueling with C.J. Stroud, two powerful offenses going head to head. This should be an interesting matchup. But the potential of a shootout bound to happen as long as there's no dirty laundry on the field. But this should be a really nice matchup on Sunday morning. Then the Miami Dolphins at 2-3 return from their bye week. I don't know what the status of their quarterback situation is, but I imagine it's the same with Tyler Huntley. As they travel to Indianapolis to take on the Colts, looking content for right now, riding with Joe Flacco unless Anthony Richardson is healthy enough to return. If he is, I probably would suggest putting him back into the lineup, but with the way that Joe Flacco has been playing, well, the Colts are probably going to ride with him. But, you only can do so much at some point with Joe Flacco because, well, I just think, Anthony Richardson can do a little bit, can do more with the offense. You got to get him some reps. That's all I'll say. Then, I forgot about this matchup too. This is a key matchup in the NFC North. The Detroit Lions going up to Minnesota to take on, or is it the other way around? I don't know. Either way, this is still a key matchup nonetheless. The Detroit Lions taking on the Minnesota Vikings, who are 5-0. The Lions at 4-1. The Vikings, fresh off of a bye week, facing their biggest early test of the season. When they faced this Lions team that just dismantled the Dallas Cowboys in embarrassing fashion. The Lions are going to be down Aiden Hutchinson to that serious leg injury. So, yeah, that defense is going to be seriously tested. The pass rush is going to be tested. So, it's going to be interesting how they're going to be able to get to Sam Darnold. But that offense for the Vikings, it's going to have to do a little bit more work. And as I talked about a couple weeks ago with that Vikings team, they're going to have to, do a lot better in the second half, because the last couple of games that we saw them before the bye, they kind of got too relaxed in those last couple of games. Then for the Philadelphia Eagles, they travel to the blue side of the Meadowlands for a division game and hoping for a faster start on offense as they face a Giants team clearly still struggling on offense. The Eagles at 3-2, taking on the Giants at 2-4. Going to the late afternoon slate of games, the Las Vegas Raiders at 2-4, no longer with Davante Adams and still very depleted with injuries as they take on an LA Rams team who are hoping to have used the bye week relatively well, get healthy. I'm not sure if they're going to have Cooper Kupp yet, possibility, but nonetheless, hope the bye week served them well in terms of just getting healthy. Then we have the 1-5 Carolina Panthers going up against the Washington Commanders at 4-2. Jane Daniels in that team looking to bounce back from a close loss to the Ravens. They fought as hard as they could, but unfortunately just came a little bit short. So they're going to look to take some of that anger out against the hapless Andy Dalton and Carolina. Then in the big matchup of the afternoon slate, my San Francisco 49ers hope that this specific game sparks the start of a run and, try to clean up some shit that they've been dealing with as they host Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in a Super Bowl 58 rematch. The Chiefs at 5-0, my Niners at 3-3. Let's just hope that something goes well with them. Then in the Sunday Night Football game for week number 7, the New York Jets at 2-4 travel to the Steel City to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Jets, they recently acquired Aaron Rodgers' old buddy from Green Bay, Davante Adams, going from the Sin City now to the Big Apple, the green side of the Big Apple. So Davante Adams has a solid chance to play in this game, but we'll see how it'll be. But should be interesting spotlight for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets now that they have Davante Adams. But we'll see how it goes, Val. Then we got ourselves another Monday Night Football doubleheader, but it's not the doubleheader that you think. I'll say why. Because on ESPN and ABC, you got your usual Monday night game. That's going to be spotlighted there. As the Ravens look to win their 5th straight game after starting out 0-2. As they head to Tampa to take on Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Both teams at 4-2. The Bucks looking to keep pace with Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. And then in the other Monday night game that I'm very sketch on, because, well, this game is not on Amazon Prime Video, not for that Jeff Bezos money, pal. No, it's for that ESPN Plus money. Yeah, the game that's not on Disney Plus. You can't use Disney Plus to watch this game. No, you got to subscribe to a specific service separate from that. So it's ESPN Plus. Yeah. Who would have thought? Like, really? People are going to subscribe to that shit? We're going to watch it some other way. One way or the other, pal. So anyway, Jim Harbaugh's Chargers look to use that same balanced attack. Look to get Justin Herbert going again. They head to the desert to take on Kyler Murray and a Cardinals team that, well, they really got to get something going defensively because, yeah, they don't want to get torched again. But that has the potential of a shootout or maybe a blowout, but that remains to be seen. Excuse me. But that is the week that will be. Has the potential for some nice games. A couple games that stand out to me is that obviously that Super Bowl rematch between my Niners and the Chiefs. That Lions and Vikings game is a key one. Packers and Texans, also a nice matchup. There's also a couple ones there here and there. Seahawks and Falcons. Yeah, most of them are very, very sketch, but we'll see. Hopefully, as long as none of them end in a blowout, we won't have some issues. But yeah, let me know which games stand out to you. What are your predictions? What are your picks? What are you hoping to look for the most in week 7? Let me know in the comments on YouTube, or send me a message on social media on X or Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. And then what were your takeaways from week number 6, the week that was? Also let me know on socials or in the comments below on YouTube. But anyway, that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I am your host, DylanLasagna. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the podcast, another edition of the week that was and will be around the NFL in this 2024 season. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until I see you, when I see you in the next one, peace out.